Evening all and welcome to another episode of Primetime with Independent Thinker. Yours truly, Ivan Showtime, and we have a very special guest in the studio this evening. And boy, I tell you, Independent Thinker, when we talk about prominent guests, it couldn't get any bigger than this.
No.
Well, anyway, let us get started. A lot of things have been happening throughout the last week and a half or so. I know you all excited about how things have been going as far as the United States, and of course Donald Trump no longer in the White House. Everybody's excited about that. We're celebrating. And I want to say a pleasant good evening to Ronnie Cash, one of my good buddies, old schoolmate. I saw Ronnie doing some big things as far as Junkanoo goes. And Independent Thinker, what can we say about our guests? And the likes
Good
of
evening,
Pierre
good evening,
Dupuch?
Bahamas, and good evening to our special guest, Mr. Pierre Dupuch. He used to come on my show, even on my show about twice, at the old station, 1197 on East Street, and it's the first time he's in a new studio. But I read an article that was prepared by him, endorsed by him, and I said, I think I need to have him come on the show, because the kind of information that was disseminated is the kind of information that that's the same trend line because questions that need to be asked must be asked, and we have to wait for a response as a country, because when this country fails, we all fails. There's no different class and failure. When the money is the value, everyone will be the value. When things are bad in the country, everyone suffers. So
Absolutely.
when you have persons who are stable and who has an honest and a fair assessment of their country also, then they are the persons who we need to have some conversation with, and who we like to share their view with the listening audience.
Well, no further ado.
Thank you very much, sir. Right, thank you. Very glad to be here, and I hope I can answer the questions you ask.
Well, this is the man I know about. I know he can answer the question, no doubt about it. And one of the things that I'm very impressed with, Mr. Butte, is the fact that you happens to be one of the persons who are not afraid to speak out, speak truth to power. Tell us a little bit of where you get that from.
Well, I suppose I was born that way. My father was that way, his father was that way. That's what started the Tribune. I told somebody yesterday, and why they wanted to know why I got so upset when that Michelle Malcolm incident came up.
Oh, absolutely, yes, indeed.
And I said it's very simple, because when I was coming up in the newspaper business, the most vicious things said about the Dupuches and our family went in the columns of the Tribune.
Right.
And the old man was very proud of that if you had your say and you wanted to criticize him and wanted to call him a bald-headed so-and-so, it was in the newspaper.
Right.
So there was one occasion where he was threatened once by a fellow called Green Annan, I believe, who brought some tigers or something here, and everybody was upset, very upset, and he wrote something about it. And in those days it was really tough, because everybody had pulled, this was after the 56 thing, everybody had pulled their advertising. And this man was advertising tremendously, and he called my brother in, and who was in charge of our advertising department, said, "Tell your dad that if he doesn't stop, I'll pull all my ads." And so my brother came back and told him, and my father wrote an editorial instead to address to him,
Right.
saying, "Mr. Green Annan, you don't have to bother pulling them, because they've already been pulled."
Right.
Okay? And so that's how I was brought up, okay?
Right.
And so I don't see things as PLP, black and white,
Right.
or UBP or FNMIB, it's either right or wrong. And I believe this oil thing in the Bahamas is the worst thing that ever happened here.
Here's the worst thing in the room.
And
I think so, yes, because I don't think it was thought out. I don't think that, you take, for example, the last oil spill, I forget where it was, but it was $90 billion to clear it up. $90 billion. You ever hear about $90 billion in the Bahamas? It was to clear it up. We asked this man to produce, fine, if you want to oil drill in the Bahamas, just produce what the contract says. What are you supposed to do? What are we supposed to expect from you? And he says, we aren't supposed to ask him that. The next thing he says, well, ridiculous accusations are being made about who's going to clean it up and insurance and that sort of stuff. Well, that's fine. Just produce a certificate. It's been said, and it's in the newspaper, that it's been checked out, and he is not insured by Lloyd's of London or any subsidiaries. That's what they say. Then they asked him a second time, and they said they'd want to comment on it.
Yeah.
Which smells kind of
Yes,
fishy.
yeah, you do have something to hide.
And so here we are sitting in this island. The astronauts will tell you it's the most beautiful thing in the world when you would look at it from up there. And we sit here, and this man, whoever he is, comes to the Bahamas and makes all sorts of things. I asked somebody the other day, who's the Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Mr. Potter or Mr. Minnis? I resent it, frankly. He's not a Bahamian. The company is not incorporated, I understand, in the Bahamas. If you got a gripe, you got to go all over the world look into where this thing is held responsible. And it's just not for us. And I think we're to blame for it because we take slackness too easy.
Yeah.
Every time there's some slack, we won't take it up. But we have to worry, as I told somebody yesterday, the end game for any leader or politician or anything else is supposed to be the people. If it's not good for the people, then it shouldn't be done.
Shouldn't be good for the
It
country.
seems as though it's the complete opposite these days. If it's good for the politician, everybody's supposed to accept it. But I don't accept that sort of stuff. Why should we take tourism? Why not develop tourism to its fullest? Because we're not even near there.
No, the potential is too big.
And employ our people in gainful employment that will service that particular industry and other industries. For example, I was saying that you're supposed to have, we aren't be able to sustain ourselves. If there's a panic in the United States, we've starved to death, although we can grow like crazy here. But nobody wants to take up the challenge.
Yeah.
And I'd like to take all Bahamians over to Israel for 24 hours and let them look around. Those people, I was over there, those people have taken desert, absolute desert, and turned it into something out of this world. I mean, the things that they've produced, it was one thing, we went to a place that had tomatoes, growing tomatoes. And tomatoes were all over the place, like a Quonset hut was hanging. I've never seen tomatoes like that in my life. And I asked the man, he says, the bees pollinate them.
The bees.
Yeah, and our director then was there with us, and he said, well, I didn't think bees like pollinating tomatoes.
Yeah.
And I never forget this fellow. He was a nice guy. Oddly enough, to look like Wallace Gross's twin. You split an image of it. He said, he says, you're right. He says, so we created our own bees, and they don't stink, but they love pollinating.
Yeah.
He took me over, showed me a box, and there they were. They pollinate like crazy. They don't know what the word can't, or the phrase can't do means in Israel.
Right.
Every time we turn around here, we can't do it, and then we bring some outsider in here.
And outside to get it done.
He gets it done, takes all his money out of the place.
Yeah.
You take tourism today, and I'm jumping all over the place.
Yeah, that's fine.
You take tourism today. When a tourist comes to the Bahamas and spends $1, any foreign money, spends $1, that is considered the capital export for the Bahamas.
Exchange.
Now, would we have to send out within 24 hours to buy food and bring it in here?
Yeah.
80 cents worth of it, of that $1. That's a capital import. So all we make is 20 cents.
Yeah.
Now why don't we, rather than running around saying we want to get more tourists, why don't we look at it and say, how could we make more than 20 cents?
All of the tourists that are here now.
Of the tourists that are here now.
That's a good way to look at it.
No, we go out and we have anything. I mean, we grow our own bananas, but we import them. When I was a kid, mutton from Long Island was fantastic.
Yeah.
Now I understand you got trouble finding the sheep in Long Island. So why not take that and develop it. In Israel, we went to one place, they had goats. St. Augustine used to have big goats. Father, what's his name had? And they milked goats, goat milk. We went in there and he said, it was a mother, a father, a son, and a daughter-in-law, 4 people. And what we would in Nassau looked like a 3-bedroom house. Went inside, there were all sorts of galvanized tubs and what have you. And outside, it really looked like an out island situation. There were goats. And every day they milked the goats. And they took us inside. And out of that, they were making goat cheese.
No.
And that was the best cheese I ever tasted in my life. They had little samples out there, all sorts of goat cheese. Tremendous industry for the Bahamas. He said he could come in the Bahamas and set it up for $50,000-$60,000, which is nothing. Now,
Wow.
that's the other thing I can't figure out here. We go in and somebody wants a part of it. I always know if in our business, for example, we go to the manufacturer of the machine. We say, how much do you want for it? We got one there with a $500,000 machine, and we say, fine, we'll buy that machine, but we want somebody to come in and train our people how to run it.
Right.
And they say, fine. But here we say, they want something. We got to give them 50%. We're going to give them 60%.
Yeah.
We hire the people. We buy the machine or buy whatever we want.
Hire
them to come in. It's a part of the sale of the machine. Let them come in, train our people how to run that equipment, and then go.
Yeah.
And they have all they did is they got paid to do the job and they go. Here now we say, oh, if he wants to come in, he's got to own it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
So in actuality, we have to change our strategy.
We have to change the strategy. We have to change. I always say the biggest problem the Bahamians have, and I'm included, is between our ears.
Yeah.
We always think we're second-class citizens. We act like them.
I don't understand why. I mean, and he's all right. We act like, because, I asked a question on or when the previous administration had revamped the legislation for the Gaming Act, and they leave the discrimination clause in place where Bahamians cannot gamble in the Bahamas, right, in the casinos.
In the casinos, yeah.
I said at the time that it was a perfect time for the government to end that then. They're going to utilize, the people of the administration are going to utilize that opportunity right then to end that. And what they did, they continue it. Because if you ask a politician today in House Assembly what it is other than voting in this country a Bahamian has over a foreigner.
No, the only problem with it is where I disagree with that. I agree with we should have rights to do what we want. The people were against gambling.
To protect the young.
I remember when I was a kid, we had the racetrack. You'd pay your staff on Friday afternoon, Monday they come borrow money to buy food. Because this is true. So they had a problem with gambling and spending their money, and this was the idea behind this: not to let people waste their money this way.
Right.
Leave it to be for the tourists. So it's a gray area as far as I'm concerned.
It is.
As far as that is concerned, but to come in here, you realize that you go into a hotel, any hotel, and all the money that is spent, or virtually all the money that is spent right on those premises, and it leaves the country. Now they've got the idea, they're putting up this tremendous idea, they claim it's a tremendous idea of revamping Bay Street.
Not only that.
Who's going to own it? Who's going to be allowed in?
Not only that, Mr. Dupuch, to confirm what you were saying is so correct. And we allow this all-inclusive too.
Yeah.
Because they pay for their food, they pay for everything before they even come. So it's very hard for them, or it's very unnecessary for them to leave the hotel premises. And I asked question over and over, how is it that previous administration refused to keep the Bahamian culture alive when they allow all of those nightclubs on Bay Street, like Painted Tailor, Piccadilly, Drum Beat, King and Knights, all these Bahamian
Cat and
and
Fiddle.
Cat and Fiddle, and all these Bahamian clubs, and you will say, why? I mean, if tourism is your number one industry,
You see,
now tourism is your only industry.
you see, when I was coming up, I could sit here and name 11 nightclubs, Bahamian nightclubs, that we used to go. We could do Nassau after dark by the Night Owls. And we write it was like a gossip column and take pictures of these people. But you start, I'd name 11 without even thinking about it.
Mhm.
Hotels were not allowed to have pipe music. You're not allowed to. So you go to a hotel and you have a Bahamian show, and sometimes you had an American show, but mostly you always had a Bahamian
Baby
show.
show, yeah.
Eloise and Peanuts and the whole lot. We went, now, who this may surprise you, but you know who organized that? Stafford Sands and the development board.
Mm.
He organized it so that the tourist would be picked up by taxis
Right.
and go to I don't know what the first place was, but let's say it was the Cat and Fiddle. The Cat and the Fiddle, and they had the show there. And then move on. They'd stay about half an hour on Cat and the Fiddle.
Yeah, we used to call
Then
it the
they'd get
nightlife
back.
tour.
Yeah. Then they'd get in the taxi and they'd go over to Banana Boat or something like that, and they stay there. And the whole thing was organized.
Yeah.
And those guys like Freddie Monies were millionaires. You can't name me a single Bahamian today, Bahamian band, that plays in a single hotel in this country. Can't name me one.
So why we?
What's his name was the last one was died? He Gibson. King Eric?
Yeah.
King Eric.
Yeah.
The
He was the
last
last
one. I remember when he came
Yeah.
to the Bahamas.
Yeah.
And this is the way it was. And I mean, and the people loved it. The tourists
Yeah.
absolutely loved it. You see, I always told people, I've said this all my life really, and in House of Assembly, they don't come to the Bahamas to pay more for what they could buy in New York. We have to be different. We have to give them a different experience.
And Bahamian, give them a Bahamian experience.
Bahamian experience. We didn't have we had Bahamian music, fantastic music. My children don't even know what it is. Probably never heard it.
Bahamian music.
All the Bahamian music, and that's all we used to have was Bahamian music, and it was and tourists like this kind of thing. So we have to do our own thing and sell our own product to America and quit copying people.
Yeah.
But that's
That's just the way it is. Anyway, let me just open my phone lines officially, 326-8255. Those are the numbers, folks. If y'all out there and y'all want to join the conversation, feel free. We also on Facebook. It's Independent Tinker 242. And we also on Instagram as well. We're not on Instagram this evening.
Instagram, Independent Thinker 242.
Independent-
Facebook is Independent Thinker.
Okay. Independent Tinker is Facebook, and Instagram is Independent Tinker 242. So those of you who want to join the conversation, feel free. Again, Pierre Dupuch in studio with us, and boy, we can start talking about a whole lot of different stuff. Of course, we got our phone lines lit up. Let's go to the phone lines and take a call or two. Good evening, Primetime Independent Thinker, Ivan Showtime, Mr. Pierre Dupuch in the studio with us. What's on your mind?
You have the best of the best of the best Minister of Agriculture in your studio tonight.
Is that right?
Yes, he's la creme de creme. Yes, Mr. Pierre Dupuch. He's from the old school, and he has saw and seen what the Bahamas is capable of. What are you saying? I always said that agriculture had the ability to surpass tourism. When you look at it in the old days, when I grew up, you went down to the dock, you had the oranges and the grapefruit from Long Island and the sheep. Eleuth would produce eggs, milk,
Pineapple.
ice cream. We had Borden's here. We had a
Hatchie
lot
Bay.
of dairies here.
Yeah.
We had Mr. Nutt, chicken farm. We had Godette's poultry. All of those things, the Bahamas, we can get back into. When you look at it, the tourism product with the nightlife, people came here to have the nightlife experience. The Stafford Sands, the so-called races, he catered to the Bahamian entertainers, made connections with them worldwide, and he saw to it that they were taken care of. He would go to the club, he would ask the Bahamian entertainers how they were being treated by the owners, and he would go and he would make himself available. But I think what the Bahamas has done wrong, we did not, all the good things that could have benefited us, we moved away from it. When we were growing up, we had all the technical schools and all of that. Agriculture could have surpassed tourism in the fact that we could have had microbiologists, we could have had agronomists, we could have had veterinarians, we could have had accounts, we could have had little stores. And when you look at it, when you look around the Bahamas, in those days you had the milk plants, which products came from Hatcher Bay, Lutheran. And I find that the biggest problem in the Bahamas now, the politicians who are entering politics, they have no idea of what the Bahamas used to be like under the 50s and 60s. We talk about the UBP, right? They had their faults and racism was worldwide. But we must give them some credit. They were up into a building. They had plans that were in place for us, as agriculture in the UBP days flourished. But where we went wrong, we look at those things as out of date. And the Bahamian musical industry is just about flat. Growing up as a little girl, all the hotels had people in the lobby playing Bahamian music, around the pool, and when you came into the airport, you were greeted with Bahamian music. The radio station, Mr. Carter, he would have Charles Carter, the Bahamian Hour. But now, the culture, we decided Jamaican or Haitian. What we need is for the politicians to really get back into the history book and open, and people like Mr. Pierre, forget his color, whether he's County Joe, UBP, or whatever, get panels of people who know what this country could be, and people like Independent Thinker who are young blood, and set something in motion. We have a lot of problems here that don't need to be. And the problem, we don't have a prime problem. What we have now is a bunch of confused, frustrated, stressed out people. Because why? We don't have nothing in place. All the school systems, all the technical schools, back then you went to trade school, but now those things are like a fairy tale. And the politicians, they need to do a study of where the Bahamas was before 67.
Wow.
That's our problem. We have people, and we have people who speak out, who do research as to what the Bahamas was, and people looking at them as if they're trying to be problem makers, which is not so. A lot of our politicians are clueless as to what the Bahamas was and where we were in the world.
Yeah, but caller, you must take note that majority of the politicians today, they are unaware of our history, number one, and some of them may be ashamed of being a Bahamian. Because when you see some of the decisions that are made and some of the nonsense that are talked, that mentioned on radio stations and stuff from some of these politicians, it clearly shows that they ain't only clueless. Because, in 2014, I asked a politician on my show, what it is differing from being a Bahamian? And he started stammering until I had to take a break. I had to go to a break because he couldn't answer. What is the benefit of being a Bahamian in the Bahamas to compare with a foreigner? And I asked him a question. I say, how is it that a foreigner could get 10,000 acres and make one? And you don't have a Bahamian, whoever in history was granted 10,000 acres to do an investment? How is it that a foreigner could come in from Canada, get $3 million, $2 million from BEC, $2 million from Metelco, $2 million from National Insurance, then allowed to sell dollar IPOs, raise $30 million, oversubscribed, create a company that Bahamians were trying to get, like Tennyson, God rest his dead, Tennyson Wells, Alan Janal, a couple of the great men in this country who was part of politics, was trying to go into that business, and before they give it, they fraud. And it leaves a taste in your mouth to believe that, hey, either the persons who were making the decisions, either they are not Bahamians or they're against Bahamians. That's how I see it.
Caller, you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
You see,
Yeah, but you know what I often say too, when you look at it, we have lost it because the mindset of the politicians back in the 60s is completely different from those now. The guys in the 60s, when they first entered the scene, they wanted to see certain things in place and they stopped.
Absolutely.
But along the way, as we went along, we got greedy.
Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah, but
No,
call
no,
it,
no.
if you, well,
Go ahead.
if, call it, let me say this to you. If you go back to when the Honorable Pierre Dupuch was the Minister of Agriculture, if my mind serves me correctly, I think he started off with the bananas, and he tried to get the duty to go up on the bananas, the import bananas or something. And go ahead and say, because I
Well,
remember
you see-
something he was doing, and it caused some friction with the former Prime Minister.
Tremendous friction. You see, I saw, I was getting calls from these islands saying that they wouldn't sell, they had no market, they couldn't sell the bananas.
Right.
So I had all of the people in, and I said, look, they always said, well, we weren't producing enough. I said, fine. You bring in, you buy what we have, and then I'll give you permission to bring the rest in.
Right.
They said yes, and never did. And I remember getting a call from North Eleuthera. I was just on my way to an FAO conference in Europe, and they said they had 80 bunches of bananas sitting there. They couldn't sell them, and nobody would buy them from them. So I went straight to the office on my way to the airport, and I banned bananas, with the exception of the ones for the hotels for tourists because you had to feed them. And everybody got excited about that now. Then the people told me, the people growing bananas, they said, well, I could raise the price. I said, no, you can't raise the price. See, this thing got to be done with sense, not just, I said, you're now getting 35 cents a pound, which is too much. But you can't raise the price. In a year, I said, no, because in a year I expect you to drop your price. Because you will have had a chance to get in the market
Right.
and increase. So within a year, I can tell you that the production of bananas more than doubled,
Right.
probably 1,000 times.
Hello.
The quality,
Yeah, hold on.
the quality was fantastic.
Yeah, let me say something to Mr. Dupuch.
Go ahead.
I remember going up to the Produce Exchange, right? The bananas were there. The truck was shoveling the bananas onto the back of the truck. I said, what the hell going on here? I mean, shoveling the bananas. Like you said, bananas are perishable. If you start off with 20 cents a pound, you go down to 10 cents. Then 5 cents. It's better to get 5 cents into that. I mean, the truck was there and they were shoveling bananas.
That's because they was competing against Brazil and companies around the world like Dole and different companies, so they couldn't get their bananas sell in a market where tourists are number one industry and the hotels wasn't buying from them. So the bananas were sitting in the producer exchange. The government was just trying to cater to them by giving them a little something for it, and then they didn't have a market for it. They just were trying to say that they were helping farmers when they were unable to force these major hotels to accept them.
You realize that City Market, which was owned by a foreign operation, refused to buy bananas and sell bananas at their stores because they refused to take Bahamian bananas. Now, the only regret I have on this whole thing is that we had Bahamians out with fields and fields of bananas, beautiful bananas, and the rug is pulled from under them. So what are they supposed to eat them? This is why you can't find people down in Long Island, these places. Well, they won't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. But now, you take a hotel, you take foreign investment, they give them a 10-year deal, they give them a 20-year deal. They won't change for 10 years. Give them all sorts of concessions. What they should say is fine until we could give them 5 years until they can get onto the market and produce, and then they're competitive with everybody else. You have to force feed the market. Tennyson Wells started poinsettias. And just before, when I was taking over from him, he said, make me a promise, don't pull the ban off of poinsettias. So I said I wouldn't, so we kept it going. And these people were arguing, well, they want to bring them in, So anyway, I got some of the producers in, some of the people who sold. And I said, now, what's the story? I said, when you go to the States, how do you buy your banana, your poinsettias? The guy says, oh, we go over there and we tell them we want 1,000 poinsettias, and we pay them 50% down, and we give them an irrevocable letter of credit, and then they plant 1,000 poinsettias for us, and they ship them to us. I said, okay, that's what you do in the States. Then it turned to I.G. Stubbs who was doing this, And I said, Mr. Stubbs, how do they do with you? He says, well, they come to me and they say, well, you can grow 1,000 poinsettias. If we like them, we'll buy them. And if we buy them, you've got to give us 30 days. So I said, well, the meeting's over because I can keep it buying on it. This don't make sense. But you see, here was I.G. Stubbs, very capable of doing it. Now the ban stayed on, and within a year, the poinsettias, everybody, all sorts of nurseries were growing up all over the place. You had the quality of poinsettia because people had making a little bit of money on it, so they could plow it back and make it better, right? The product better. And again, pull the rugs from under. So why do they do it? There's no protection for Bahamians. We have absolutely no protection. I understand why the man started, because he can't tell you what Bahamians got, what advantage it is to be a Bahamian. I think it's a disgrace. Because we can do it. Now, you all are probably too young. Do you remember Hatchet Bay?
Yeah, man, I used to run on Holly and Charlie years ago. On Holly and Charlie, we used to go into Hatchet Bay. Pineapples, watermelon.
Okay.
Listen.
Now, the Hatchet Bay plantations, the milk stands, you see the milk stands in
Yeah.
Nassau? They're still there.
Yeah.
You know what they
Some of
are.
them rotten down to the...
On the corner of Barrington Road, the corner of Kemp Road, and there are two or three of them on Shirley Street, everywhere named by the that there, you see, in anything you have to have production, you have to have transportation, and you have to have marketing. Those things have to go together.
Yeah.
And you can't market if you don't have the thing produced. And you can't transport it. Levy at Hatchet Bay had the 52 miles, I believe it was. But that boat they owned, they brought the stuff here. They grew it down down in Luther. They brought it here. It was distributed to the milk stands, and people bought them.
Right.
So you had the three ingredients there. But you don't. I was there several years. Well, not several years ago now, because when I was in the House of Assembly, and I went down because I was always interested in knowing, because I knew George Thompson. George Thompson, he was UEP, he was a Pierre, but he was in the House of Assembly, very, very nice guy. But he used to produce more pineapples you could shake a stick at. You'd go down the street here, and there'd be trucks with piles of pineapples in the back of them. You can't even see them now. But I said, the guy who was showing me down this place, he says, you see over there? I said, yeah, that's only bush. He said, that used to be tomatoes. He says, every Friday, the trucks would be lined up for about a mile to drop their product off at the place George Bacon owned it, that turned in pineapples and tomato paste, tomato, everything. He drove me up to the place. The place was, walked in, all of this beautiful equipment, all this galvanized stuff, all of it falling down, all of it falling down all over the place. And there were two trucks there with the licenses on them. There was the old plate license, packed and fully packed with B&B tomato ketchup, ready to be delivered.
Wow.
And it's still there. That was 30, 40 years afterwards. Okay? And now I doubt if it's there. Now, nobody can tell me that cannot be done.
Hello.
Yeah. Well, we still got the call on the line?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could wrap up.
Yeah, okay, caller, wrap it up for me real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Secondly, pigeon peas was imported from Nigeria for P.W. Aubrey to do pigeon peas. To me, that blew me away.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, because
They
we
call on that
yeah.
one.
Anyway, caller, appreciate your call now. We got another call on the line. Appreciate your call. Let's go back to the phone lines. Good evening, Primetime and Independent Thinker.
What's happening?
Everything's good, man. What's on your mind?
Everything is copacetic. I didn't know that guy used to run on the Holly and Charlie. I used to run on the Holly and Charlie too, bringing all the watermelons and everything from Hatchet Bay.
Man, listen, we catch the last part of the lucha boom with the vegetables and things. Listen, we used to fill the whole hatch with pineapple and then fill the deck. I tell you couldn't even walk on the back deck. That's how much pineapple and watermelon we used to bring to the produce exchange. But we kept the last part of 90, that was around 96, 95, 94, around there. That's the last part of that. You know, Lucha supply the whole country with egg, chicken, milk, cheese, pineapple, watermelon, onion.
So
I want to know what
going
happened.
wrong? What's going wrong?
I don't know what it is. I think.
Well, it was all political.
I can tell you what happened.
Okay,
What
go ahead.
happened,
You
Gaddafi?
Lucha, go ahead. Go ahead, Google Mason.
The former Prime Minister put the curse on Ilfa.
We had several former prime
The
ministers.
Mr. Dupuch know what the biggity one is.
The biggity one?
Yes, sir.
Well, you can call him name. You ain't signed under defamatory. You call him name.
When you say biggity one, who you think about?
The one man band.
That's who made Ilucha what Ilucha is a ghost today.
And let me tell you why I concur.
Hey, let me say something. Let me say something. 'cause,
Go ahead.
You know, I can't get it on my TV so I can listen to y'all guys. You know what I mean? I gotta get it on this telephone to talk to y'all. I mean, listen. My father was a cowboy in Roxanne, and my uncle used to work on the farm. I know about killing those big animals and taking them down to Hatchet Bay, and the milk and everything, the eggs and everything from Roxanne to go off to Nassau and about. Now listen, Mr. Dupuch,
Hey.
this is what I want. This is what I want to ask you about. How all of a sudden, right? All our natural resources has been taken out of this country and secretly going into the bank account of some 52 people that has these bank accounts in Switzerland, some $7 billion. So that has to be some part of our natural resources. How come all of a sudden right now that the government wants to develop a natural resource or a sovereign welfare fund when the Honorable Renford Welton want McAlpine to bring it forward, and the speaker say this is something he wanted to hear a long time. All of a sudden the government has the interest now. What's going on? I want to know why are they taking upon themselves at this time, because the groundswell has already been lit. You know what I mean?
Well, the whole
Let's take it to the park. You know what I mean? So we can. Everybody wants this wealth, this sovereign welfare fund. You know what I mean? Let's take it to the park to see who got the best plan. Because guess what? The government is all in fashion right now because they didn't want to do it all along. All of a sudden they want to do it now. Tell me what's going on.
All right, Google Mason.
Okay, Gaddafi, appreciate your call, man.
Don't cut me off because I can't hear you. Go ahead, let me hear what you got to say.
Okay.
All right, go
Okay.
ahead.
Go ahead,
my feeling on it is I don't know too much about it, but it doesn't sound good to me. Because if you have money coming in, assets coming in, it goes in consolidated fund to pay debts. Now, I heard the same story, when they did this national insurance thing, that they were gonna put so much money away, and people when they retired they could get the money, and now they're talking about running out of money. But really, when you look at it, you got to ask yourself, where did all this money go? And this money went, as far as I could find out, to subsidize. Like they loaned this money to the Bahamas and they loaned the Bahamas, and are they ever get it paid back? No. So why doesn't it go in a consolidated fund? Be honest about it. Say this is taxes. That's all it is. They'll have this fund here. They can say it's for the Bahamian people, but everything is Bahamian people. So they'll go and they'll borrow some money from the consolidate, whatever they call the thing, and then our people, including when I say our people, I talk about all of us. Okay, we let free things kill us. All they got to do is put a little bit of glitter in front of us and we run for it.
Right.
I don't know why they want to start this now, because they're trying now. Right now, they're trying to just. I see this man, Mr. Potter, and I figured he must be a new prime minister we got. He comes with, he thinks it's a great idea.
Because he thinks it's a great idea.
It's a great
I have a
idea.
letter. Listen, when you go to the break and you come back, I need you to read this letter. Producer, he's in studio.
Yeah, he's right there.
Okay.
Anyway,
I have a letter from Simon Port that I need to read. That's some insert from it when he was in a shareholder meeting in England, and I think majority of the Bahamians missed it. It was in the Tribune on October 1st, 2013.
Okay.
When we come back from the break,
Yeah, we'll
I just
listen
want
to
to read some clips of it so the Bahamian people could understand who this Simon Porter, who Mr. Honorable Pierre Dupuch believes got to be the prime minister.
Okay, guys,
based on the statements.
we pass overdue for our first break, but when we come back, like Independent Thinker said, we're going to revisit this letter, and maybe we'll find out some more information. Stay with us. I'm in Showtime. I got Independent Thinker in studio with me, and of course, our special guest, Pierre Dupuch. And I think engineer extraordinaire is just about ready to take us to the break. But independent thinker, just before we go to the break, there were other things that people were texting and asking about as far as they talk about the oil drilling. So we're gonna get to that as well. And I heard a lot of what you call conflict of interest.
Well, if you go back to a statement
In the oil deal.
in the oil deal, the former deputy prime minister, he states that all PPC ties are severed, and you read this particular bit was in the Tribune in 2015, but if you go to what a statement that was made by the former central bank governor, the former minister of finance, James Smith, and you'll say, what is he talking about? After the break.
Yeah, we'll go to the break. Stay with us, guys. We take a break and be back after this. Welcome back, everybody. I've been Showtime Independent Thinker in studio, along with our very special guest, Pierre Dupuch. And prior to going to the break, Independent Thinker, you were telling us about this letter
From Simon Porter.
from Simon
And
Porter.
some
Now, is this the same gentleman you talked about, Mr. Dupuch, as it
The guy-
relates to who's the prime
our
minister now?
Our new prime minister.
Our new
yeah.
prime minister?
Yeah.
Well, you got to tell me some more about this.
Yeah,
this infamous
I
letter.
read this letter. I read that was published in one of the newspapers in 2013. My mind served me correctly, and he stated, and somewhat that there would be no referendum on oil drilling, and the PLP didn't hold it, and he was right. And then he said in that same letter to the editor that the final court of appeal, the Privy Council, is in London. I don't know why would he say that if everyone in the Bahamas know that that's our final court of appeal. But it gave me an inference, personally, it gave me an inference that he's saying that the final decision will be made here in London. And he's having a shareholders meeting at the time. And he made statements like that. It's about
Like
6 or
biggity.
7 statements. No, biggity. It's just that
No, that's a bold
it
statement.
made Bahamian feel that this gentleman has ultimate power.
That's why I said it's a bold statement.
It's an attitude, but I can understand what he was saying.
Okay.
Now, simply because if you have an agreement in the Bahamas and we go to court here, and they say they're against you, they come against you, your final court of appeal is the Privy Council. You can say, I appeal that, and I appeal it completely right. And that is maybe what he's referring to. But it's his attitude more than anything else. You know, I don't think any of his companies are in here. They're all over the world, as I can understand it. And there's no way, this is a weird sort of setup. And I think this man comes in and says he can drill whether he like it or don't like it. And he goes ahead and drills. And everybody in the virtually everybody in the cabinet says they don't like oil drilling in the Bahamas. But who's running the country? If they don't want oil drilling in the country, they're the people who are supposed to be making the decision. Now, they come up and jump, and this is something I resent them doing. Because, you sound too much like Donald Trump. When you lie. Every time you turn around, the PLP started it. But the PLP, this thing was written for the PLP to start with while they were in power. That's one thing. It expired. The thing expired. And the FNM renewed it.
Right.
So it was like, I told somebody the other day, it's like you driving a car. You just drove the car, you drive the car. You run the car up in the bush. Who do I blame, him or you?
You blame who run the car in the bush.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, the present government, and I have a rundown right here. The present government okayed the lease again. They renewed it. It had expired. They did not
Wait a
have
minute.
it. Was expired. Man had money to pay tax, he hadn't paid him. There was no reason for it to happen. Here is you want the timeline, is it?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Read it into the record.
June 2015, the government renewed BPC's 4 Southern oil licenses for 3 years. obligation was commence drilling an exploratory well by 217. March 217. In March 217, the government extended the drilling deadline to April 18.
And which year is this?
It's 2017.
17.
That's the PLP was in power at the time.
What?
In
No,
2017.
17?
March? The election was until May 10.
Okay.
Right.
May 18, the Minister of Environment, Mr. Ronald Ferreira, invited Bahamian businesses to his office to discuss oil drilling. He confirmed, as far as the cabinet of the Bahamas was concerned, permission would never be given for oil drilling in the Bahamas. Some of the businesses present was Joe Darville, Sam Duncombe, Lynn Gabe, representatives of the Fishing Association, Katrina McKinney Lambert, from Brief, Heather Cartwright, Michelle Cove, Kelly Meister, all of these people. They were at the meeting. They were told this. June, that was May 17th. June 12th, 2018, I'm sorry. The BP Chairman Sports report states, in May 2017, a general election in the Bahamas was a change of government. The new government has made the development of a robust and successful local oil and gas industry a key plank of its vision and strategy for the Bahamas. That's the FNM.
Right. June.
February 22nd, 2019, the government extended the BPC oil drilling licenses until December 2020. December 25th. Okay. So they renewed it.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's a great point, you know.
Now,
That's a great point.
the
So in actuality,
Farrar in February 25th, the he signed the environmental impacts authorization signed by Minister of Environment Simon Potter, giving BPC approval to drill for oil in the Bahamas. Now you just tell the people the game to have it, and now that has to be okayed by the Best Commission.
Right.
Now who is the Best Commission?
The best commission is the same people who's at the meeting, eh?
No.
No.
Best Commission, what ministry is that under?
That's environment.
Prime Minister.
Prime
Prime
Minister.
Minister.
Well, that's interesting, though.
You see,
And-
so that they hadn't paid the license fees, the thing's expired,
So in
but they're
actuality,
blaming it on the PLP.
yeah, in actuality, they could have just said, you know what, we're not renewing the license.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Especially when everybody there claims that there's so much against oil drilling.
yeah,
Now, which side of the mouth are they talking out of?
wow. This is some good stuff.
That's the only thing I have.
326.
What side of the mouth are they talking of? Who is Prime Minister of this country?
Well, I heard the statement that was made by President Prime Minister, and he stated that he don't support oil drilling. And I said, well, if he doesn't, that mean that there'll be some litigation or some judicial review in our courts. And I hasn't heard the government carry them out of the courts yet. I think Fred
Well,
Smith
The whole
has carried them out of the court.
Well, the whole thing is this, you know, they say it's an irrevocable license. They can't get out of it. Shows here that they were out of it, they got back into it. But the question again is Bahamian foreign. And I don't like to call people foreign and that sort of stuff, because foreigners are, as far as I'm concerned, welcome in the Bahamas. But they owe, the government owes Bahamians over $200 million. And Carl Bethel says to them, we ain't paying you. And if you don't like it, take us to court, and we'll drag it out for 5 years. Now that's how you treat Bahamians, and how you treat Mr. Simon Potter.
Wow. Anyway, I see we got our phone lines lit up. Let's go to the phone lines. Good evening. Independent Thinker, Ivan, Showtime, Prime Time. What's on your mind?
Hey, critical thinking, how are you today, night man?
All right, sir.
This is your good friend, God bless. How are you?
Right, so far so good.
The Dupuch, how are you, sir?
Oh, not too bad. God bless. That sounds like
Yes, sir.
That was Moxie or Fox Hill.
I used to work, growing up, I grew up in Oak Hill area, and I used to work at Edding Dupuch.
Okay.
And that's one of my first jobs.
Good, good.
I love it there. And me and your nephew, God bless the dad who died, we grew up together.
Graham, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. But I'm so glad and happy that you cleared this up. and I'm glad that you're on Critical Thinker shows that now he has the facts. Okay, that's all I call to say.
Oh,
Have a
yeah.
nice evening.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Well, listen, but God bless a gal ain't gonna be that like that. Listen to me. Whatever statement you get is what coming from was reported and documented. And when you can see me in a political pundits chat,
Chat group, yeah.
and he
Okay.
feel that that I put plenty of blames because one someone on Facebook is saying now Lincoln Roll is saying that independent thinker always blame the PLB for everything that's bad. See, let him do it tonight. But you notice everything I say, you can't come back and say it ain't correct.
It ain't correct.
I can hang it over line
But
on the
this,
PLB.
this is some good information. Though.
Right,
This
right.
is some good information.
Yeah.
You know, you and I had conversations about this oil drilling and all
Right.
that stuff. And my thing is, and Mr. Dupuch, you could join in on this if you want. Like, I told him, I said, I truly believe that if the Prime Minister truly, really wanted the oil drilling to stop, he is the what authority?
competent
The
authority.
competent authority.
Competent.
Can he have the power to just say, listen, no oil drilling right now?
Well,
Cabinet-
the problem is, he gave permission to drill.
To renew the lease.
He could have said, I don't want to renew the lease.
Yeah, he could have done that.
Sure. You rent the house, your lease in the house could give up, come on, and say, sorry about that, I want somebody else in the house.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want you in the house. That's the same thing, if the lease is run out,
Mhm.
he hasn't paid his taxes, there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's another man in the room.
Yeah,
say,
he
sorry,
has
man,
no
I-
grounds.
I
Mr.
can't
Dupuch,
use it."
did this last renewal give a length of time that it's being renewed for?
Yeah, it was apparently December 31st, 2020.
No, I
But
know,
that's
but
the letter
did they say how long it's for? Because each one of those leases, because I have a
No, they
document.
didn't. No, they didn't say. But the whole thing is this: you see, they say that all of this is wrong. It can all be brought to a head and taken care of two ways. Where's the lease? You could read. You could read. You could read. I could read. Why can't we read the lease?
Yeah.
So we're left to guess what's in there.
You're right.
Okay? Now, he says it's foolishness when we say if it was an oil spill, they can clean it up. But how? We won't find out. The insurance people say they aren't insured, or at least up in Northern Lloyd's not insured. Fine, I don't care. He said the lawyer, they're wrong. That's fine. Bring me the lease. Bring me the document that says you've got a car. In the glove compartment of your car, there's something that says your car is licensed
Right.
and insured.
Right.
Huh? Don't you carry it on all the time?
Yes.
But what's wrong with him giving it to us?
Yeah.
Yeah. So listen. Why you leave so much questions we got to
Well,
ask?
that's-
Because
But seriously,
you know,
this is
I asked a
simple
question. I asked a question from 2016. Who has the insurance for BBC? I mean, what is the value of the insurance? I mean, what is the information?
Why are they telling you it's none of your business?
So if we had the Freedom of Information Act, would this
But,
be
but
something
if,
that...
you know, but
Look,
Freedom
let
of
me just
Information is
tell
beyond
you about
information.
that. Let me tell you about that. All of it reverts to us, because we put it with foolishness.
Exactly.
Okay? In the Constitution of this country, there is one committee that's named, and it's always headed by the opposition, the leader of the opposition. I was on it when Cecil was there. Cecil was the leader. They have the power of a court. If we tell you to show up to give evidence tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock and you don't show up, we send the police for you.
As the opposition.
Yes.
So why the opposition is asking for the
All right,
insurance?
hold on. But they have the right. They have over and repeatedly been asking this government for information in regards to the finances of this country, and the government just simply says, we ain't giving it to you.
So how come the police isn't based on the Constitution? Why they don't go to court and get the court to order
No.
that the government do it?
Don't ask me. But that's the attitude of the government.
So why wouldn't the opposition ask the government for a copy of the lease and the name of the insurance company and the value of the insurance if there's an oil spill, which will damage
But
and
if they don't
destroy
want,
this
if
country.
they don't want to just come to this, if they don't want to give it to them, or if they find some reasons why they shouldn't give it to them,
Or they're asking.
I don't know if they ask or not. But the important thing is, why doesn't the man produce it? If I was in a problem, and the problem, you were sitting there accusing me of all sorts of stuff, and I know it's wrong, and I know it's if it's in the lease, will prove you wrong, I'll quit.
Bring you proof.
I'll run out quick and bring you to the lease and let you see it. Say, see here.
So would it be, Mr. Dupuch, would it be fair for the Bahamian people to press the opposition now, from today on, from tomorrow on, to ask for the copy of the insurance if there's, God forbid, an oil spill that has the potential of destroying the ecosystem, the fishing, the tourism product, every single thing can be destroyed with one oil spill. Because if you go back to the oil spill in the Gulf, you said it was 90 billion?
So the same 90 billion.
$90 billion, right? That's what? Almost 9 times of our GDP.
And
I said that's only 12 billion.
not only that, has the oil spill that the Dorian caused up in Grand Bahama, that oil spill been cleaned up yet? No.
No.
No oil spill in the
No.
Ain't
People in
cleaned up
Grand
yet.
Bahama
So, I
were
mean-
complaining about that for months.
And why isn't the opposition?
Because we are taken for fools by all of them. You're a good PLP,
Make a note of that.
anything they do is all right. You're a good F&M, anything they do is all right. Eh? This present government is responsible for everything they do, and it's about time they stopped saying it was caused by the PLP. And I know PLP and I know F&M.
Right.
I'm an independent.
But we,
But if you want to find out what's happening, the people of this country have to stop this foolishness by saying as a PLP or as an F&M or as a UBP, and say these are the facts. I want them. If you don't give them to me, I won't vote for you.
could, Mr. Dupuch, by you being a former member of parliament, a former cabinet minister, is it possible that a ordinary citizen of this country can go to court and force the opposition or the government to produce the lease and a copy of the insurance?
No, I am not a lawyer, and I don't want to get into
Okay,
that.
all right, no problem.
I don't know. I mean, I think they should be able to, but I wouldn't say they can. They can't because I'm not a lawyer and I don't know.
Okay, I'll find out, because I have a lawyer next week.
Yeah.
Alfred says, supposed to be here next week.
Alfred says could tell you.
Yeah.
But you see that
It's just, it's just, Mr. Dupuch, it's unbelievable, and it gotta be virtually impossible for them to allow these people to come to this country, dredge for it. I mean, we only have one industry left. Agriculture just about died.
Let me ask you this. They are in the middle of the ocean now, and they strike oil. How they can get it off? How they can get it to the shore?
You have to bring it to the boats. I'll take it
Boat.
some
Well,
oil.
they could put pipe under the ground.
No, but they didn't talk about that. They didn't need to talk about that. How they can get the oil to shore? Have they said?
with barges.
Yeah, they usually use tankers, and they pump to the tankers.
No. Pump to the tanker. They pump it through an oil pipe. You mean to tell me that they can have a rig out there, 365 days, an expensive rig out there, to fill your boat up when you come? It's not economically nobody told you how they can do it. They say they can fill the boat up. That's nonsense. As far as I'm concerned, it's nonsense. Maybe I'm wrong. So you pull off, and the boat's sitting there, and then the next boat comes and puts some. You know how many oil leak on that? That's not going to create oil leak. Just put the pipes together, you get oil leak. People don't understand, or they don't want to understand, that people have drilled in this area for oil from that time, from the Second World War days. They did strike some oil up around Cuba and in the Bahamas, but not enough to make it viably economical. And they left it. When they desperately, especially during the Second World War, they needed it. But they left it. Has anybody said, well, I suspect, and I may be dead wrong, since everybody hiding everything, you got to start guessing. I suspect that what's going to happen You can say they're gonna get, right before the election, you can hear, they struck oil. They can tell you how much there, but it struck it. They're not lying to you, because if they got a gallon of oil out of it, they struck oil, okay? But they won't tell you how much there. They won't say it's not.
If they tell you, then they'll give you an
But
idea
right
what
after
they
that,
possibly can
right
make.
after that, you'll have an election. They'll call an election. And the Bahamian people said, well, there's a second coming of God. We got out of debt now because we got oil. Yeah? Everybody go crazy, buy stocks. Now, stocks. Simon Potter got options now. Don't worry about stocks. An option is that today you promised that you could buy these shares for $1. So if it goes up to $10 next year, you can still buy these shares for $1 and sell them for $10. Okay? Now, Mr. Simon Potter, they call them options. He owns 250,000, according to this, million options.
So what he buy? I mean,
He didn't buy them yet as options. He could buy them at the price they are today, whenever he got the options, which is something like 5 cents. And when it goes up to top 10, I'm quoting these prices. I'm not sure about the prices. I know that you can get the options for given next to nothing. So the price goes up to $10 because of struck oil. Not saying how much is there. And then he sells the shares because everybody's jumping and screaming at boy they got oil. So they buy shares. He puts the options on the market. He buys his options, 66 million options with 10 cents each or $1 each. But he's selling them to you for $10. Something like $662 million is made on stock.
Wow.
And he hasn't yet told you how he'd get them there, how the oils get on the market. He hasn't yet told you how much oil's in the market that it can be extracted. Everybody else says there's not enough there. A lot of people, like these big oil companies, have been drilling down these areas for years. Why did they cap? Say it was some economic reason.
you're so right, because Mr. Prescott and some other people from Andres, they're saying that some pipe is capped or something off Andres or some places around.
I don't know. More than likely.
That was a talk a few years ago. I
Tell-
think
tell
we got a call on the line. Let's go take another call.
Tannehill or something.
Good evening, Primetime, Independent Thinker, Ivan Showtime. What's on your mind?
Hey, I've been short down. How you doing?
Hey.
You said Watchman. How are you?
How are you, sir? How are you?
I'm fine. Good to hear your voice. This is the view to the balcony there.
Bonkanita.
Yes, sir. Good to
Long
hear
time.
you.
Yeah, for a long time.
Long time, man. Always a pleasure to
Go ahead, Bonkanita.
Yeah, let me just be quick here. One of y'all asked a question why the opposition run challenging in court. One of y'all asked that question, right?
Yes, sir.
The reason why is because it's called kickback.
No, you can't say that. I mean,
Every politician involved in kickback.
no, that wouldn't be a fair. No, Bonkanita, that wouldn't be a fair statement to make, because every politician doesn't know. So.
I mean, I'm not saying every.
That's what you said.
Back.
So you gotta take that one back.
I'm not in Parliament, my brother.
No, I know you're not in Parliament, but then you're on the air.
Well,
Once you're on the air, you can't make a broad statement like that.
That is slanderous.
That's
Yeah.
slanderous. You can't say every politician.
Listen to me. You remember the Promise Commission on Corruption?
Right, but that still don't have nothing to do with the statement you made. But every politician, I think you should
I
say
say some. I correct myself. You still say it. I say some.
some.
Well,
Okay.
let me
Hold on. Let me Mr. Dupuch respond to
let
you.
me say something here.
Go ahead.
What is happening today makes people make statements like that.
Right.
Because none of what is happening today makes a tremendous amount of common sense.
It don't make sense.
So when it doesn't make any sense, it's nonsense.
So
Now, why are intelligent people talking nonsense?
Should we have
And
a law
he's-
based
he's-
on kickback in the future, Mr. Dupuch?
Huh?
Should we have a law based on kickback in the future?
Sure, they should. There is a law
They do.
against it, but you
There's
see,
a laws against it.
It's
see,
called
they got-
bribery.
They got this new thing up here now that everybody's going crazy about. This brings up a whole new campaign money bill still in cars. That sounds good. It doesn't it? Sounds very good. But you give me 10.
Some people go to Parliament, they go to get what they want for themselves.
No.
We all know that.
You cannot say they. I'm telling you, you
Right,
cannot
man.
use a broad. You could say a few of them.
Hey, I say some. I said you all know some. What happened? I said some.
Okay.
All right.
So what happens is now, if I'm running and you give me $1,000 for and I got to declare this to a commission, a special commission that they will appoint, okay? So you send it to the special commission, so they get a list that you have in fact given me $1,000.
Mhm.
You go into them now and ask them to give you a radio. No, you ain't with us. We already know where you put your money.
Mhm.
It's basically, it's a shakedown, as far as I'm concerned. What they should be doing, if they really wanted to stop corruption, is they should make a law banning things like making pyramids. So you own it, but the foreign really owns it. They fool with the law like that. I have had personal experience with people who want to make deals, and they say, pick your lawyer and your accountant, and we'll start negotiating. So if you go along with that, they negotiate something. They write up an agreement. It's lawyer-client privilege. It can't be brought out, so
Right.
nobody knows it's happened.
Solicit client privilege.
Yeah, so you're paying me off. Why don't they make a law that says that anybody, lawyer, accountant, anybody, who makes that kind of agreement, or writes up that kind of agreement, mandatory jail sentence of 10 years for the person who writes it. You wouldn't find one in this town to write something up to make an agreement.
You're so right. I see we got the lines lit up again. Let's go back to the phone lines. Good evening, Primetime, Independent Thinker, Ivan Showtime. What's on your mind?
Showtime.
Yes, sir.
Thank God for life. I was going in the house, but after I hear Mr. Dupuch, I'm learning on it. I have to call. You understand? Because I don't know if you remember, the 2 times I call your boy out. Okay? Your partner in crime on the show. I tell him, I said first and foremost, some things he'll say make sense, but a lot of things I said personally, he liked to box the PLD. All right? Everything he tried to blame on the PLD. You remember the oil conversation, and I told him if minutes wanted to stop that,
Yes.
that could be stopped.
Yes,
But I agree with
remember
you.
that.
I agree with you with that.
No, you didn't agree with me.
I agree. I'm telling you, I agree with you.
The PLD had already signed that, and that was a done deal.
No, sir, I never told you that. You cannot, you will never.
I listened to the show,
I hear you, but you will never get me to say something.
Listen to the show.
No, sir.
Here we go again.
No, sir. I said, listen to me. Listen.
Showtime.
All
Here
right.
we go again. I want talking because I know other people want to say something too. Now here we go again. Showtime. Listen to this.
Okay.
All right. Now we getting to find out, see what everybody who got sense know. Okay, this man in for the Bahamian people. We getting to find this out, but you scared that your partner in crime be trying to defend this man on every occasion.
Man, I ain't defending no one, man.
Let him talk. Go ahead, Bojangles.
The truth said that, Mr. Dupuch said, sorry for that. Mr. Dupuch said that they don't tell nobody nothing, and he's saying why the PLP don't go, why the people don't insist that the PLP find out. When he should be saying why do the people don't insist with the S&M, what they dealing with.
All right, now can I defend myself?
Why they don't insist on this man.
Yeah.
But
You're so right, Bojangles.
PLP, why not put it to the S&M,
But-
the government, who we know, minister don't tell nobody nothing, he don't give an account to nobody. Anybody with common sense seeing what's going on in this country.
Yeah, but Bojangles, you being unfair. Let me tell you why, and I can tell you right now while you lie. Mr. Dupuch said there's a section in the Constitution what gives the opposition the power to summon people in papers, and if they fail to do so, the police come. You ain't said a bat. So I asked the question, how is it?
You said that this man refused. He said they ain't telling him nothing.
I hear you know. So why isn't the opposition utilizing their privilege in the Constitution?
Why are you putting the emphasis on the opposition?
But they said, well, tell the opposition.
On the people who should be making this. They say they come into a government, but they don't try this one. They say the man say he's gonna be a government of transparency.
You're right. You're 100%. You're 100%.
That's what he said.
Yeah, and accountability.
Doing what he said.
Right, and accountability.
Doing what he said. Then you try to tell the caller, oh, you can't say them kind of things.
No, he said, no, Joe Jackson, no. He said that all to the politicians is go to the House Assembly for kickbacks. No, you can't make a broad, because you have plenty politicians who have integrity and who will never, no. I had to correct him.
Let me say something. Let me say something here. This is why a lot of people, and I don't resent it, but it bothers me because I was a politician. I don't like to be thrown in the same bag as those people. But I was Minister of Aviation. Now this is a true story. And this is what makes people think this. Okay. Some people, one Bahamian, one guy who lives here, and 2 English people came in, and they were talking to me about licensing aircraft, registering aircraft, just like you register boats. Very lucrative thing. And they came in and they said, they treat you like I call them like bush monkeys. They must think we're stupid. Because they treat you like that. They write it down on these flashcards and hand you a set. So they hand me a set of flashcards, and they're trying to explain to me about this registration of aircraft. And then they come to one page, and it says, no, this is where you come in, Minister. And it's honest to God's truth. This is where you come in, Minister. And I said, you remember Dr. McCartney? He died a couple of years ago, a couple of weeks ago. He and I were in school together, and we were like brothers. And we used to call it go to Minnesota. Everybody looking at foreigners, and this, you always looking like third-class citizen. So we used to play him on. We used to put on Don Bahamian look. So you egg them on, and they finally come up with the truth, right? So anyway, that's what I did with these, playing like I didn't know what he was talking about. And they went on, and they said, this is where you come in, Minister. I said, what are you talking about? Well, he says, you go and you pick your lawyer and your accountant, and we'll start negotiating immediately. And I said, I don't understand that. What are you talking about? So he finally came out and said, wanted to offer me part of it. I said, well, I'll tell you what you do. Go to the Bahamas telephone directory, you look up under attorneys, and you pick your own lawyer. You look under accountants,
Pick up
you
your own
pick
lawyer.
your own accountant. I said, then you go see them, make up your mind. When you come back here, don't come to me and try and buy me, because I'll throw your backside in jail.
I bet he never come back.
And then as they're leaving the office, the Bahamian turned to me and said, we don't have to deal with you. I said, I know you don't have to deal with me.
The Bahamian said that.
The Bahamian said that, yeah.
I said, I know you don't have to deal with me. But don't try and buy me, because that don't work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So, people have that. Another case. I was in agriculture. My son, as you know, went to Trinidad, took the medical degree. And one of his classmates was from Trinidad. Had a uncle or some very wealthy man. Wanted to buy a hotel. So Leon called me and said, Daddy, would you talk to this man? I said, sure, but I'm not, not a financer. It's not, but I'll tell him who to see and what. So the man came, very well dressed, very nice person. We sat down, we talked very, very friendly, about half an hour. And he wanted to buy one of those hotels on Bay Street there, by the point, on the other side, one of the smaller hotels.
Well, maybe Mayfair.
And I told him, how he had to go about it. At the end of the conversation, he said, well, Minister, he says, how much do I owe you? I said, I beg your pardon? He says, how much do I owe you? I was told that you had to pay the minister. I said, well, this one minister you don't have to pay. Now, what does that tell you?
Yeah.
He wasn't talking out of ignorance.
No.
He must have been told that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That it must be happening.
Well,
So these sort of situations ended with that sort of accusation that was made on the telephone.
yeah.
And it makes it worse when you are entitled. Don't worry about with the opposition. The F&M is driving this car,
Right.
okay?
Yes, sir.
I, as a Bahamian, as a part owner of this country, just like you are,
Mhm.
I want to know what the deal is. I want to know what the agreement is so I could read it for myself. I don't need anybody reading it for me
Right.
or telling me something. And I want to see the certificate that says they cleaned up the oil spill and they got the money to do it. And then I, big enough to make up my own mind, and I am entitled to that information. Now, if they don't want to give it to me, then that breeds me asking questions.
Right. Something wrong.
Something is wrong.
Yeah.
And it stinks. The fish is rotten. And it asks people, it encourages people to ask those questions. Yes, it's slanderous, he shouldn't say it.
Right.
But the fact is you push a guy far enough and you do anything else. We aren't far from animals. You try and chase a rat in this room. You run all over this room. You can't catch him. You get him in a corner.
Come at you.
He come at you.
Yeah.
Okay? And that is exactly what they're doing in this country today. They're doing things that don't make sense, that smell to high heaven. They're causing people to get upset, causing them to be upset. And when they do something, watch out. And I don't condone riots and all that foolishness, breaking things up. But people are people. You can't push them too far. As far as I can see, I was an F&N. I went through hell, even before the F&M was born. They ended with this? No, that ain't good enough. Just not good enough. And we as Bahamians should revolt against it. I ain't talking about nothing violence. Revolt meaning that we should do something about it when the next election comes and vote them out. They think we're fools and you should prove that we aren't. And when the next crowd gets in there and pulls the same kind of stuff,
Do the same thing again.
put them out too.
But if you, Mr. Dupuch, if you would listen to producer, you get a song by from one of the former members of Parliament, the Honorable Leslie Miller. Producer, you could play that song by then. Let's hear what he say about this oil drilling.
Alan, in our discussion about this whole BPC oil drilling, please welcome beyond that line, Steve Lee Miller and Leslie Miller.
What is so egregious about the situation at that time, and even more so now, was the fact that the state of Florida indicates clearly that they would not accept any guarantees from Comagene, which was a $50 billion company at the time.
Way more experience than BPC.
Oh, big experience. BP is really a joke company compared with these worldwide conglomerates of views that we dealt with. Okay? This was a company with assets of over $50 billion, one of the top 10 companies in the world at that time in oil production and what have you. But when you appreciate the fact that here you had a small company like the Bahamas with a gross domestic product of some $12 billion, and you were being, not threatened, but you're being told by the governors of Florida and the people of Florida that if any action was to take place, we're not only going to hold Carnegie responsible, the government and people of Bahamas would be held responsible.
They were given the go-ahead under the Christie administration, and that's where we get to the point where the present administration is telling us that, listen, the former Christie administration would have agreed to these terms, locked us in these terms, we could not get out of these terms. Why would the former Christie administration, after having, when you were in office the first time, decided that this was too dangerous, agree the second time around? Only this time around, they were even concerned that members of the cabinet were actual shareholders with BPC. Only this time around, they were even concerned that members of the cabinet were actual shareholders with BPC. Only this time around, there was even concern that members of the cabinet were actual shareholders with BPC.
All right. Yeah, what he's saying is that. Huh? Call on line one. What you say? Producer saying to me. Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead, because it incomplete, but then it's
So we gonna still continue to listen to it? Oh,
No.
make your point, make your point.
Yeah, what he's saying to the end of that, if you listen to Leslie, the Honorable Leslie Miller, and he stated that he don't understand why the Bahamian appears to be holding hostage as a result of BPC statements that Simon Porter makes, right? And they were not even at the value of the company that they ran out of the country when they wanted to put the naturifying glass inside Ocean Key. And he's saying that this company was valued some 50 billion. But he's saying BPC hasn't showed where they're using stocks to show their value. They don't have no experience and previous oil drilling, Simon Porter, that's what he's trying to say, but that, I don't know what happened to the audio. I don't.
Well, it's very simple what's happening here. He's got $66 billion and he got fined at least one pound, one gallon of oil there.
Go on. You learn.
Oh, what are you saying? We got a call on the line? Let's go to the
No.
phone line.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think he lost me on that.
You lost you on that
Yeah,
one.
he lost me
Yeah,
on that one.
Mr. Dupuch,
Yes, sir.
so what you're saying now, can we, so you're saying that you were not sure because of the legality of us filing a production of papers or certiorari mandamus or
This is something for a lawyer to watch, but I've seen them. They say to Bahamians they ain't paying them. What special things? Yeah, the things here show that the lease is expired.
So if the lease expired
The lease
and the
is
government
expired.
didn't renew it,
It's
a
finished.
layman will say that's it.
That's it. You're finished. So this business about saying the PLP, there's the PLP, the PLP. Every time you turn, I'm sick and bloody tired of it, frankly.
Because if they want to change it, they can change it.
$200 million to pay off PLP debts. And 6 months later, they borrow another $200 million to pay off PLP debts. When the hell are they to pay off all the bloody debts? What do they think we are, a bunch of fools? In business, you know
I've
this.
always loved
Yes,
this
sir.
about
Yes, sir.
this.
Yes, sir.
If you go in to buy my business, you ask me how much you want for it, and included in that is the debts that business have. And you go to the bank and you borrow the money, and you pay the debts and you buy the business, right?
Yes, sir.
So how can you come back 6 months later and say you want some more money to pay off the debts?
I tell you.
Yeah, but if you, based on that statement you just made, I had to chuckle because it reminded me about the sale with BTC and Cable and Wireless. I mean, the sale was completed, but it was alleged that money was left in the account for BTC, for Cable and Wireless to manage BTC. Millions of dollars. And I say, how could you sell me a car? And then for
In the glove-
10,000,
in the glove
and then I
compartment.
leave 8,000 in the glove compartment. It just don't make no sense.
Either some people believe that the Bahamians are stupid, or the whole thing could be cleared up if you had a real serious, I'm talking about serious, I ain't talking about no jokey thing, Royal Commission of Inquiry.
Yeah.
They would have a field day down here. That's all I can say.
Wow.
They would have a field day here. Because I've been in business for a long time. I was trained in business. Got 2 degrees in business. And they're doing things I never heard of in my life. You don't borrow twice to pay off debts, the same debts. You just don't do it. There is something wrong.
Do you think is you think that the lack of information is why you think that
They can hide so many things,
I don't say hiding. Hiding is
but they
too
just
simple.
not bringing it to the forefront.
I mean,
I
because
call it hiding. I mean, it is what it is.
what
You
you
have
saying?
you have to make it. Look, you have to make it. And I'm not saying lawyers are crooked. Or they some of them are crooked. Some of them make your profession look bad. But most of them aren't. But when you got a problem, you go to the root of the problem.
Right.
The problem is that people make deals and put it in law in writing and sign them, and it's client lawyer confidentiality.
And you know,
So they can pay me. So you do what you see that as a problem. Cut it off.
some reports that say to Mr. Dupuch that they're speculating that some billions, hundreds of billions of barrels of oil
Right.
is here. That's what they're saying. I mean, I'm just
Who's saying it?
That's what the statements are being made from
Potter said
BBC. From BBC. That
Mr. Potter. Mr.
Yeah.
Potter, right.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And-
If Donald Trump said the same thing, would you believe him?
No, sir.
Oh.
But I can tell you this.
What makes you believe
I
Mr. Potter?
started to investigate and follow up the owners of BBC and where the companies formed and all that. And the office of BBC, where with the investigation I was doing personally,
Yeah.
I ended up to a small little building on Mount Pleasant with wooden windows, and I couldn't believe that. It led me to a little small building in Mount Pleasant.
That don't
Right?
sound-
I'm telling
that
you.
don't sound right.
But that's where the company registered lead me at the time when I was investigating. How is it?
And that's to pay off a $90 billion for the oil spill.
It's a little wooden, and I have pictures of it because I did it years ago, and I have pictures of the little building. It's a little building, maybe about 12 by 15, and it's only a parking for about 3 people, and it's a wooden windows, even though you have glass windows.
Yeah,
A little wooden, it's a little wood, it's a concrete building, a little small old building, like somebody had a barn or a little shop there or something, and they had that registered as BBC office. I can't believe that. I said this track had to they had to put that to lead me off course
Yeah, maybe
because it couldn't be right.
maybe they just wanted to leave.
I mean, you're doing billions of dollars value of resources from this country. You're going to get involved in, and you're leading to that little building out Mount Pleasant, a little wooden windows and stuff. That's why I stopped. I said either they divulging me into some foolishness, or it's just a scam that they're putting up.
Exactly.
It gotta be.
So why are you gonna jump F&M jump on a PLP for it? Why did you say let's have a commission of inquiry? If you aren't prepared to give the facts and come clean and put it on the table, let's get a commission of inquiry.
Okay, I see the lines are lit up again. Let's go back to the phone lines. Good evening, Primetime, Independent Thinker, Ivan Showtime. Mr. Pierre Dupuch in the studio with us. What's on your mind?
Showtime.
Yes, sir.
Listen, I got an important question.
Sure, go ahead.
All right. They're trying to tax us again to cover for the shortfall in the Bahamian economy. Now, what are we getting from it? They want us to pay more taxes, but in the end, we're not getting anything. It should be to a point where if you tax us, we can reclaim our tax later. Because what you do with money, you're going to invest it or you're just going to spend it down a dark hole. All right? Anytime you tax people, you should have an avenue where these people can get at least some of the money back. But everything is going down a dark hole. Only the big time conglomerate companies in the Bahamas is getting it back because they are collecting the tax on the people also. So what's going on? What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you this, a quote from Sir Winston Churchill, and he stated one time that when the government tries to tax its way out of debt, it's like standing up in the bucket and trying to pull it over your head. Sir Winston Churchill.
That's right. That's very right. You see, and this is why all of these things that you see, it's all the smoke screens to influence people, get people all excited and all sorts of stuff like that. Talk about this wealth fund and all sorts. Sounds good. Sounds very good.
But I don't understand why there was
all of this is another form of taxation.
Yeah.
Because what they'll do is put it in the wealth fund, and then Bahamas they'll borrow from it, and this one will borrow from it, and that one will borrow from it, and you think Bahamas they can pay it back?
And two things I'll say to that. Show that before you.
We got Gaddafi still there. Anyway, Gaddafi, appreciate your call, buddy.
No, don't cut me off. Don't cut me off. Just I can listen to it.
Oh, you can listen to it.
He can't listen because he's
okay,
yes, he can.
All right.
Listen, and I was saying, when you go to the building here on Thompson Boulevard, just further down the road, where the initial contract was, I think it was under $10 million, right? And when the building was finished, and they borrowed the money from national insurance, the building cost the Bahamian people some $32 million. No one was hauled before the court. No one was charged. No explanation to the Bahamian people for the national insurance fund that you contributed as a result of your labor. The same thing in the building in Sandlands,
That ran an election for him.
Huh?
That ran an election for him. Go on.
That's around the election. Listen, and what I'm saying is, the initial contract was 5.6 million or so, and the building fence cost 30 million. How could you have an overrun 6 times of the initial contract, and the money's come from national insurance? And that's why national insurance can make statement now that they spend some 275 million and they run out of funds. But they had 2 billion, they had 3 billion.
And you know when they ran out of funds, they're borrowing money, they're lending money to people never intended to pay. And that all I'm saying to you is that all that was a fancy way of calling the income tax, more taxes. And now they're putting the wealth fund out there, more taxes still.
So it's anything we can do.
Why doesn't somebody say that I understand that the bathrooms on Saunders Beach or somewhere, they're never even opened.
Yeah, cost
$200,000.
Yeah.
$200,000. You joking?
Beach, yeah.
My house ain't going. That's 3 miles.
Where did the money come from? Where did the money go? Anybody worried about that?
Guys, we're just about flat out of time, but I must
Oh,
say,
already?
yeah, I think
Oh, they speed up the clock.
yeah, they're always doing that on us, man.
But the beauty really appreciate.
Yeah, man, we really appreciate you stopping by and of
Sharing
course
this
giving us
information.
all this information that you've been giving us, and now we got a different perspective to look at this oil drilling and whether or not it's something that could have been.
And you asked a prominent question. If the competent authority
has
the power,
because that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm
it's oil
thinking.
drilling.
Oil drilling is a form of business, right? That's a business, right?
Right.
Because they got their business license just like everybody else, or however. So if he could stop other businesses, why can't he stop that?
But Mr. Dupuch, I really want to play a soundbite from the former Foreign Affairs Minister, Fred Mitchell. And you will chuckle when you hear what he said. Why won't but say the country could make $5 billion from this oil? I said, what kind of nonsense is that?
Well, I could read, you could legalize prostitution, you could make more than that.
Mr. Dupuch, I want to say thank you. I want to say
Yeah.
thank you for
Absolutely.
taking request to come to the show. I really appreciate it. The same thing as we had before. You always come and you make the show very interesting, and the information. Listen, it's always good because sometimes people ask us questions like, "How are you here now?" Some people don't call because they don't want to interrupt you, and the next show they'll say, "When Mr. Pierre come back, ask him this, ask him that," because the information you've given is so valid and timely. Because this oil drill is happening now.
Yeah.
Because I spoke to the Defense Force officer, winding down right now, and he said that the Defense Force boat
Are protecting the oil drillers?
was out there when the oil rig reached off Grand Bahama for 5 days to make sure that they didn't have any kind of interference or interruption.
Yeah.
And the Defense Force officer told me that.
Yeah, that's right.
And he said he's on the boat for 5 days.
Yeah, that don't surprise me.
Right. Anyhow,
These
this
guys
must
don't
be
do
continued.
To be continued. I like that. I like that. Mr. Dupuch, again, thanks. Thank you so much, and we appreciate you again. And of course, as always, the doors are always open.
Thank you.
Anytime you feel the need, just come on and feed us more information. I think the more we get to know about certain things, the way we look at it differently.
Well, it's a quote from Celinda I like to end with. If Bahamians aren't prepared to stand up and fight and defend their own Bahamas,
And
they don't deserve to have it.
Anyway, that's going to do it for us, man. We out. Have a safe one, everybody.